Dear students, welcome to UGC EPG Pathashala on Human Rights and Duties. My name is Professor Y.S.R. Murthy. I am the Executive Director for the Center for Human Rights Studies, O.P. Jindal Global University. In the paper on International Fora for Protection, Promotion and Enforcement of Human Rights, we will take up today the module on the Universal Periodic Review, or in short UPR. We have seen at some length the activities of the UN Commission on Human Rights. In fact, it started its work in the 1946 and it was eventually wound up and replaced with a Human Rights Council in the year 2006. So, in the period between 1946 to 2006, the Commission on Human Rights evolved a number of international human rights standards, norms by way of treaties and conventions, which is quite impressive achievement. But if you look at the overall contribution of the Commission on Human Rights, there are many negative features and there are justifiable criticisms that this body was a victim of politicization, double standards, selectivity in condemnation, and at one point the then Secretary General observed that the Commission on Human Rights was casting a long shadow on the United Nations itself, and that is how a high level panel on threats, challenges was constituted, and it submitted a report, and then a serious effort was undertaken to strengthen the United Nations human rights machinery. That is how in the year 2005 World Summit, many important changes were made, and it was recognized that just as peace and security was one pillar of the United Nations and development is another pillar, and human rights should be the third pillar supporting the entire United Nations work. As one former Secretary General Kofi Annan said, you cannot have peace and security without development. You cannot have development without peace and security, and you cannot have both of them without human rights. And that is why with this realization, the United Nations decided to double the budget for human rights work, and it also decided to create a new mechanism in the form of Human Rights Council to replace the United Nations Commission on Human Rights, and the new body, the new Human Rights Council, established a mechanism called Universal Periodic Review, which is the subject matter of this module. We will look at what is this Universal Periodic Review is all about, and what are its achievements and what are its drawbacks. The UPR is a unique tool to review the human rights records of all United Nations member states, whether big or small, developing or developed, north or south, and east or west, etc. The UPR is a state driven peer review process carried out under the supervision of United Nations Human Rights Council. It provides an opportunity for each state to outline what actions it has taken to improve the human rights situation and to fulfill its human rights obligations. As one of the main features of the Human Rights Council, the UPR process is designed to ensure equal treatment for every country when their human rights situations are assessed. At the end of this module, students will have an idea about principles, objectives underlying the UPR process and its modalities. They will also have a critical assessment of the UPR. How did UPR originate? It was established when the Human Rights Council was created on 15th March 2006 by the UN General Assembly through a resolution 60/251. This resolution required the Human Rights Council to undertake a universal periodic review based on objective and reliable information of the fulfillment by each state of its human rights obligations and commitments in a manner which ensures universality of coverage and equal treatment with respect to all states. How is this UPR process conducted and what are its modalities? These are mentioned in the Human Rights Council Resolution 5/1. A unique three-pronged or a three-dimensional approach was adopted in which three documents had to be submitted to the Human Rights Council. One, a report prepared by the state containing a self-assessment of its own human rights situation and not exceeding 20 pages. Two, a compilation of information from the Office of the High Commissioner for Human Rights and in relation to the human rights, treaty bodies and special procedures mandate holders not exceeding 10 pages. 3. Additional, reliable and credible information provided by other relevant stakeholders like non-governmental organizations, national human rights institutions in reports and summarized by the Office of the High Commissioner for in not more than 10 pages. Under the Universal Periodic Review mechanism, the human rights situation of all UN member states is reviewed once in every 4.5 years. During the first cycle, all UN member states had been reviewed with 48 states reviewed each year. The second cycle, which started in May 2012, has seen 42 states reviewed every year, and each review is carried out by a Human Rights Council working group chaired by the President of the Human Rights Council and composed of all 47 member states of the Human Rights Council. And if any UN member state can take part in the discussion, dialogue with the state under review, and each review is assisted by a group of 3 states known as troikas who serve as rapporteurs. The selection of these troikas for each state is done through drawing of lots following elections for the council membership in the General Assembly. They can be delegation members or experts nominated by the selected state. Every state under review has a different Troika, and these reviews takes place through an interactive discussion during a meeting of the UPR working group between the state under review and other United Nations member states. Typically, the state under review sends a delegation of government officials from different ministries, and the review begins with a presentation by the state under review of its national report and of its responses to advanced questions. Then any member state can pose questions, comments, and or make recommendations to the state under review on measures to improve the human rights situation in the country under review. How do NGOs feed into this process? NGOs can participate in the UPR process and can submit information which can be added to the other stakeholders report which is considered during the review. NGOs can also attend the UPR working group sessions. Information which is provided by NGOs can be referred to by any of the states taking part in the interactive discussion during the review. At the end of the interactive discussion, the state under review presents its concluding remarks, and the duration of this review was 3 hours for each country in the working group during the first cycle, and from the second cycle onwards this time has been increased, extended to 3.5 hours for every state. Following the review by the working group, a report is prepared by the Troika with the involvement of the state under review and assistance from the Office of the High Commissioner for Human Rights. This report, known as the outcome report, provides a summary of the actual discussion. It therefore consists of the questions, comments, and recommendations made by states to the state under review, as well as its responses. During the working group session, half an hour is allocated to adopt each of the outcome reports for the states reviewed during that session. These take place no later than 48 hours after the country under review. The state under review has the opportunity to make preliminary comments on the recommendations. According to the Human Rights Council Resolution 5/1, states can accept or note recommendations. There are only two options, either accept or note recommendation, but they cannot reject them. Response to each recommendation must be clearly explained in writing in a specific document of up to 2,675 words called an addendum. This addendum should be submitted to the Human Rights Council in advance of the adoption of the report at the Human Rights Council session. Both accepted and noted recommendations are included in the report. Once the report has been adopted, editorial modifications can be made to the report by states on their own statements within the following 2 weeks. The report then must be adopted at a plenary session of the Human Rights Council, and during that plenary session, the state under review can reply to questions and issues that were not sufficiently addressed during the working group session and respond to recommendations that were raised by states during the review. Time is also allotted to member and observer states who may wish to express their opinion on the outcome of the review and for national human rights institutions, NGOs and other stakeholders to make general comments. The outcome report is adopted by a resolution or decision, preferably by consensus, to underline the cooperative nature of the mechanism. After the adoption of the outcome report at the Human Rights Council, which concludes the Geneva stage, the follow-up action begins. This is the stage where the state under review has to implement the recommendations and improve the human rights situation in the country before the second review. Human Rights Council Resolution 5/1 further elaborates on the modalities and process of the review. States are encouraged to prepare the information they submit through a broad consultation process at the national level with all relevant stakeholders. Additional credible and reliable information provided by other relevant stakeholders to the Universal Periodic Review will be summarized by the Office of the High Commissioner for Human Rights in a summary which shall not exceed 10 pages. Other relevant stakeholders may attend the review in the working group before the adoption of the outcome by the Human Rights Council plenary. The state under review should be offered the opportunity to present replies to questions or issues. Other relevant stakeholders will have the opportunity to make general comments before the adoption of the outcome report by the Human Rights Council by the plenary. The outcome of the Universal Periodic Review as a cooperative mechanism should be implemented primarily by the state concerned and as appropriate by other relevant stakeholders. Universal Periodic Review is thus a full circle process comprising of various stages, right from review of the human rights situation of the state under review to implementation between two reviews once in every 4.5 years by the state under review of the recommendations received and the voluntary pledges made. Reporting at the next review on the implementation of those recommendations and pledges and on the human rights situation in the country. Since the previous review, principles and objectives guiding the UPR process. These have been mentioned in the Human Rights Council Resolution 5/1, and these principles shall underpin and guide the UPR through its various stages, and it must promote the universality, interdependence, indivisibility and interrelatedness of all human rights. It should be a cooperative mechanism based on objective and reliable information and on interactive dialogue. Ensure universal coverage and equal treatment of all states, and be an intergovernmental process, United Nations member driven and action oriented, fully involve the country under review, complement and not duplicate other human rights mechanisms, thus adding value. Be conducted in an objective, transparent, non selective, constructive, non confrontational, and non politicized manner. Not be overly burdensome to the concerned state or the agenda of the Council. Not be overly long, it should be realistic and not absorb a disproportionate amount of a state's human time and financial resources. Not diminish the Human Rights Council's capacity to respond to urgent human rights crisis situations. Fully integrate a gender perspective. Take into account the level of development and specificities of countries and ensure the participation of all relevant stakeholders, including non-governmental organizations, in accordance with General Assembly resolution. According to Resolution 5/1, the objectives of Universal Periodic Review are the improvement of the human rights situation on the ground, the fulfillment of the state's human rights obligations and commitments, and assessment of positive developments and challenges faced by the state, the enhancement of the state's capacity and of technical assistance in consultation with and with the consent of the state concerned, the sharing of best practice among states and other stakeholders, support for cooperation in the promotion and protection of human rights, the encouragement of full cooperation and engagement with the Council, other human rights bodies, and Office of the High Commissioner for Human Rights. What are the positive features of this UPR process? In a comprehensive analysis of the first cycle, the reputable NGO UPR Info pointed out that 75% of all recommendations were accepted, 15% were rejected, and there was 10% where no clear position was taken or a response remains pending, which is really significant and which speaks volumes about this UPR review process. Human Rights Watch has highlighted the success in curing the selectivity syndrome. UPR has also shown that the problem of selectivity and double standards can be tackled by developing a more universal approach to the examination of specific situations rather than avoiding engagement altogether. Jean-Louis Roy of the Global Observatory on Human Rights pointed out that the interactive discussion which forms part of the review as having given new life to national and global debates on human rights, since it involved every UN member state as well as NGOs, NHRIs and intergovernmental organizations He says that it seems reasonable to contend that the UPR mechanism contributes to the strengthening of the UN human rights system. Emma Hickey, in a comprehensive analysis of the first cycle, has observed that UPR has the potential to serve as a mechanism through which human rights situations of concern can be addressed and accountability and cooperation among states can be increased. Now, let us make a critical assessment of the UPR process. States' reaction to recommendations. For instance, UPR Info identifies over half of the recommendations rejected as requiring the most action to be taken, and therefore with the greatest value from the perspective of actual improvement in the human rights situation. This NGO, International Service for Human Rights, has pointed out a further unsatisfactory custom which prevails amongst some of the states under review has been that in order to avoid criticism, they advise that implementation is underway. This means that while the recommendation enjoys the support of the state under review, it is not registered as having been accepted by the state. The imprecise nature of recommendations is also a problem. Besides the difficulties in encouraging states to actually accept concrete recommendation, another obstacle of hampering implementation of reform is the imprecision of many of the recommendations. Jean-Louis Roy argues that during the first cycle, encouragements, general suggestions, comments and recommendations were all mixed up. Recommendations were even accepted despite the fact that they contradicted the state's international human rights obligations. That way of doing things is unacceptable. It led to the multiplication of recommendation so vaguely worded that their implementation is unverifiable. The difficulty in evaluating implementation, in addition to the problem of following up vague recommendations, there is no system to measure even those that require specific action. The United Nations and in particular the Office of the High Commissioner for Human Rights currently does not have the resources to undertake such a mammoth task, and thus the process is very much reliant on the cooperation of the states themselves and the pressure of civil society. Nonetheless, the UPR Info study shows that 48% of UPR recommendations triggered action by midterm, meaning that the recommendations were either fully or partially implemented only 2.5 years after the initial review. The regional group that was most successful at midterm is the Eastern European group, while some difficulties were perceived in Asia. The initial response of the state under review to the recommendations accepted or noted influenced the implementation of the recommendations in favor of accepted recommendations, with 55% of accepted recommendations triggering action by midterm. However, 19% of noted recommendations also triggered action by midterm, indicating that noted recommendations should not be disregarded in the implementation. Issues such as women's rights, international instruments, and children's rights had the overall highest number of recommendations that triggered action, but the issues with the highest percentage of implementation within the issue categories were HIV/AIDS, human trafficking, and persons with disabilities. In conclusion, we see that UPR is a state-driven peer review process carried out under the supervision of Human Rights Council. It provides an opportunity for each state to outline what actions it has taken to improve the human rights situation and to fulfill its human rights obligations. Unique three-dimensional or a three-pronged approach was adopted, in which 3 documents had to be submitted to the Human Rights Council at least 6 weeks in advance of the review. Emma Hickey observes that UPR has the potential to serve as a mechanism through which human rights situations of concern can be addressed and accountability and cooperation among states can be increased. Thank you.